What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. The Autumn Nations is back on this weekend. We've already done a couple of preview videos, one for the Wales versus New Zealand game and another one for France versus Australia. You can go check those ones out after this one if you haven't already. Of course, in the preview videos is where we check out the squads that have been announced that are going to be playing on Saturday. We'll go through them, see who's been some good picks, some bad picks, maybe some changes we would have made, and then finally we will give a score prediction. So Ireland versus South Africa. Now, there's a lot of big games on this weekend, but this is probably the one I'm the most excited for. This is a game we will be seeing in the World Cup only a year away. Could arguably the game to finish top of the table. It could be the decider of who goes on to play New Zealand or France in that World Cup in those quarterfinals. It could be a really, really important game. Now, going into this one, a couple of stats going into it. Ireland are doing pretty well. And it was quite fun to have a little bit of a look through some of the stats here. Now, Ireland have lost 2 games in terms of mainline games, 2 games in the last year. So this run actually starting from way back around this time last year. We saw them beat Japan, they beat New Zealand, they beat Argentina. We went into the Six Nations where they won every game bar that one against France. That could have arguably been a Grand Slam game for them had they managed to come away with a win there. And then since then, going on into the summer, they've won every single game bar one against New Zealand. Now, the 2 games they lost to France playing away and they lost to New Zealand playing away, which means they've got a 100% win rate at home, and they are going to be playing at home this weekend, so it's going to be a big boost for them. In terms of South Africa, been a bit more volatile, shall we say. In terms of sort of going from this time last year, they beat Wales, they beat Scotland, they lost to England, they beat Wales, lost to Wales, beat Wales again, then they beat New Zealand, and they lost to New Zealand, and they lost to Argentina, they beat Argentina, and then we're back to 2 wins against Australia. So it's been a bit more sort of roller coastery for them. They can't quite get those consistent wins one after another, and South Africa versus Ireland is surely going to be an extremely fun game to watch. So let's start off by looking at the Ireland team then, because I haven't got to talk about Ireland for a good while, it feels like. Now, starting off in this front row, Andrew Porter, Dan Sheehan, and Tadhg Furlong. So this is a standard setup, I would think you'd probably say. We saw this a lot through the Six Nations and the summer tours. These are 3 lads they tend to go down the way of now. Dan Sheehan's been incredibly impressive since he's come on this island. Seems to be fair, such a fast man for playing in that hooker position, but he's playing really, really well. In the lock department, Tadhg Beirne and James Ryan. They have a lot of good jumpers in Ireland, especially in terms of that line-out's absolutely solid for them. Very few games do you really see the Ireland line-out just fall into disarray. So many top players there. Tadhg Beirne can also move to 6 if needs be, so they've got some versatility there. In the back row, Peter O'Mahony, Josh van der Fleer and Keelan Doris. Again, all 3 of these lads playing exceptionally through the Six Nations. Josh van der Fleer got into some man of the matches. I think he was player of the round in a couple of them as well. So playing some really good rugby at the minute. Halfback partnership, Conor Murray and Johnny Sexton, retaining that captaincy, of course, Sexton. Now, Jamison Gibson-Park did well, to me, through the Six Nations. There was a lot of talk around whether Gibson Park would be starting ahead of Conor Murray. I think they know this is a big game, especially against like South Africa. Still the world champions, even if they're not currently at that #1 position, because Ireland are in that #1 position. So it's like the official world champs versus #1 in the world currently. This is going to be a really fun game to sit down and watch, I think. In terms of the centre partnership then, they've tried to back this up as well with a combo we've seen before. Robbie Henshaw in the inside centre and Gary Ringrose on the outside. Gary Ringrose is playing really well recently as well. He's really got back into his stride, so it's really nice to see. Robbie Henshaw can play either or. Some people might be missing Bundy Aki in here, but to be fair, Robbie Henshaw and Gary Ringrose work very well together for me. And then in this back 3, Mac Hansen goes over on that left wing with some amazing tries throughout the Six Nations. Robert Balakoon on the right wing and Hugo Keenan in that fullback position. So this is an Ireland team we've all seen before. We know what they bring in terms of line-out situations, scrummaging in the breakdown zone. So many key players going on here. You know they can do these sort of strike runs. We've seen the speed of Mac Hansen. People like Ringrose can find gaps. This could be a fun game if you want to see tries. I have no doubt, given the sort of size of this game, you might be seeing a lot of 3 points just every so often just to keep the scoreboard ticking. But there's big opportunities for tries coming in this game, so really looking forward to it. In the replacements then, we have Rob Herring, Cian Healy and Finlay Bealham. That tends to be about what we see normally. I mean, a couple of times we do see shifts up in the hooker position maybe, but, you know, you'll normally see Cian Healy in there at least, and Finlay Beelam's normally in that list as well. In terms of the rest of the replacement forwards, we have Treadwell and Jack Conan going to come on, bring some half-time smashing probably when he comes on in that second half. 3 replacement backs then, Jameson Gibson-Park, Joey Carberry and Stuart McCloskey coming in. Now McCloskey, I really like McCloskey. He's not really been on the island sort of radar for a little bit of a while. We did see him have one game not that long ago, and I thought he was really good. He had a try disallowed. He was in my fantasy team. I got really mad about it. But I thought he's playing good rugby, and he's playing well at club level. I did see a couple of people talking about they wanted to see McCloskey get in the team. So nice to see him in there. And then, like I said, good coverage around the back here. I think maybe the only issue could be if you have an injury in terms of fullback, maybe. I'm not sure who else is going to be too happy. Maybe Mac Hansen can drop to fullback. I'm not sure about like Joey Carberry. I'm not sure in terms of injuries to the fullback position. There's a lot of cover there, but maybe that means that Ireland are actually going to be trying to keep that ball in hand and using their forwards. On to the Springboks then, who looked like they could have been taking that rugby championship after that first win they had against New Zealand. It looked like they were going to be really on form. A couple of different areas letting them down. We will talk about that in a little bit. But first of all, let's have a look at the team that's been announced. So starting off in this front row, Stephen Kitchoff, Malcolm Marks. Man, there's a guy who's been playing good rugby recently. Nice to see him in this side. And then finally, Franz Malherbe coming in there in the tight head position. In the lock, Lou Diaga and Eben Etzebeth. This is a system we've seen more than enough by now. We know what these two lads offer in this lock department. And then in that back row, Sia Khaleesi, Peter Steph Dutoit and Jasper Wiese. So a lot of big ball carriers in this team. So maybe South Africa are going to lean towards playing with the ball in hand. We did see a lot in the Rugby Championship of South Africa kicking the ball away, and quite a few times it didn't really work. The balls were either being kicked too long from box kicks, sometimes too short, not really making the ground. I would have liked to have seen in that Rugby Championship South Africa hold on to it more. So maybe by having the big ball carriers on, maybe they'll try and hold it on to it a little bit more. Maybe we'll see how they get on. In the halfback partnership, Jaden Hendrickse comes in. Damien Willemse takes over that 10 shirt again. I thought he'd been playing well at that fly half shirt. There was a couple of people, of course, missing. There's no Andre Pollard. I believe Frans Steyn is also out as well for this one. So Damien Willemse has been playing well at fly half, to be fair. So I don't think it'll be terrible. I even think his kicking percentage towards post was relatively good, if I remember correctly. I'm sure someone will drop down in the comments if I'm completely wrong. But I think he's been playing well. It's nice to see him there. In the centre partnership, Damien Dialende and Jesse Creel. Now, a lot of people... I've seen incredibly mixed views about Jesse Creel. I quite like Jesse Creel as a player, but I've seen people really happy to see Jesse Creel in here, and then some other people really unhappy that Jesse Creel got in. Now, I think Lacania Am is still not in here to be able to play yet. So Jesse Creel's got experience in that outside centre, and we saw this combo as well in the Rugby Championship. So, you know, I think this is probably a good combo, but that centre area, especially going up against Ringrose and Henshaw, it's going to be a key area to try and win in this game, so we'll see how they get on. And then finally, in the back three, Mapimpi, Kurtley, Arensa, and Cheslin Colby. Nice to see Cheslin Colby back. Hasn't felt like he's been in a Springbok jersey for a while. Going into the fullback position, I'm more used to seeing him in a winger position. Normally the right wing, but I am aware he has experience in that fullback position. He's more than comfortable playing there, so it'd be nice for me to get to see him. I'm sure if you're a South African watcher, you're probably more than experienced with it, but it'd be nice for me to see him there. But overall, this is a team we've seen pretty similarly through the Rugby Championship. They perform well in a lot of games, so I think overall this is a good team with some nice changes in there. Looking forward to see what these players do. And then in terms of the replacements then, Bongi and Banambi, Ox and Che and Vincent Koch coming in there. This is when they talk about their bomb squad. They like the big boys to come on in that second half. I'm sure they'll be making a big appearance, try and make some big impacts into this game. In terms of the rest of the replacement forwards then, Franco Moster, Dion Fourie and Quagga Smith. So they've gone for the 6-2 split. They obviously are fully aware what Ireland are in terms of the threat, in terms of the breakdown, the forward pack. They know the sort of game they're going to want to play. Bringing on the 6-2, I don't think that's a bad move at all, especially with the win record Ireland have got at home at the minute. You've got to be ready to play up forward against these boys, so I think that's the correct call. And then the replacement backs, Faf de Klerk and Willy Leroux. So coverage in terms of the backs, I'm not too sure who would necessarily cover centre. If there was a centre injury, I'm sure someone could drop that down in the comments. I'm not sure who else, if they lost Damien Dialende, who's going to be more comfortable sliding into that 12 shirt. But that's the risk you play when you play with a 6-2 split. But overall, this is a really good looking South African team. I think we're in for a really exciting game. So in terms of a score prediction then, what do we think? Well, there's a couple of key areas for this one. Like I said, the breakdown situation, holding on to the ball, some of the kicking games that'll be going on. It'll be interesting to see how these teams hold up. Both teams to me have a pretty strong line out. I might even slightly lean towards that the Ireland line out is more consistent in terms of doing well, but we know what the driving maul is like from South Africa. Ireland also love the driving maul, so the battle of forwards could be big. Having the 6-2 split, having that extra man in terms of replacements could end up really big. I'm not sure what the weather's meant to be like for Saturday as well. If it's raining, it's just going to be a forward slogfest for this one. But what do we think in terms of a score prediction? I think I'm going to say Ireland. I'm not by a lot, though. I think I'm going to say Ireland by... I'm going to go with 4. That's going to be my prediction, guys. But of course, I welcome you guys to drop down in the comments your thoughts on this game, your score predictions. Make sure you are putting them on the Super Brew before the weekend begins. And if you've enjoyed this one today, guys, make sure to leave this video a like and subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with all of the preview videos and some of the match reports that will be coming out on the weekend. I hope you've all enjoyed today, guys. I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.